Hello, Janice.
Hello, Eva.
Thank you for coming and joining us on A New You.
That's okay. Thanks for inviting me.
No, I'm really looking forward to hearing about your journey with Weave.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, how did you come to start Weave?
Well, We've actually, I was in a company called State of Flux, which was me and 4 non-disabled dancers. And then that was after I had my accident, my spinal cord injury, which put me in a wheelchair. And then Arts Access, actually, person who was working there at that time, organised a series of workshops for people who wanted to go to this masterclass with Can Do Co, which was a visiting British disability dance company. And so they invited myself and Martin Hughes, who was another dancer in State of Flux, to lead those workshops. And so we did that. We did the 6 weeks, and then we did the masterclass with Can Do Co. Oh. And then everyone who'd been in that group wanted to keep going. And so as nobody else wanted to take on a leadership role, I, being someone who finds it hard to say no, said yes, and so it started from there. Mm. And we did get some funding for venue and stuff for about a year from Arts Access, but then that stopped, and we had to start looking for money to keep us going.
And the search has never ended.
No, that's right. Well, then I fell into the role of what was artistic director, but at that stage I called myself coordinator, because what I was mainly doing was admin and trying to find money. And yeah, so I fell into that role and didn't call myself artistic director for a long time, but eventually did call myself artistic director. Mm. And yeah, so now it's been going for 26 years.
That's a long time. Mm. And you were a dancer before, weren't you?
I was involved in dance, yeah. Okay. I always danced, from a young age. I went to dance school at the age of 3. Mm-hmm. And then I went to the Borovansky Ballet School, which was kind of the forerunner of the Australian Ballet. But then, as you would have seen if you saw my solo last year in our solo show, I grew to about 6 foot tall, and I was just, not the right size and shape, and felt all wrong in ballet. But then as I got older, I discovered other ways of dancing. Mm. And then I did a graduate diploma of movement and dance. Mm.
And that's where you acquired your injury, didn't you?
No, connected, yeah. Yeah. So it's a dance-connected injury, because I was doing this thing called trapeze dance, which wasn't like high circus trapeze. It was just sort of standing height, and then even a lower one, lower than that, hanging from it. And then it was just like part of creative movement or improvised movement. And so you'd be moving on the floor, and then you'd move onto the trapeze and just sort of hang on it and swing around on it a bit. And so anyway, I got to like hanging upside down, because as a child I was a nerd and I just was a bookworm, and I didn't do a lot of, apart from dancing, I didn't do a lot of physical activity. And so I'd never didn't do daring things on monkey bars or anything. And so I got to like that. But unfortunately, I moved into a house in St Kilda where there was a bar in the backyard over concrete, and I was continuing my hanging over, and I slipped off one day and just landed on my lower back.
Oh, wow.
And got a spinal cord injury.
I can relate to being
acquired injury,
to being snatched from the height of movement.
I probably wasn't at your height, but yes. I had been in America just before that.
Wow.
Doing courses in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Particularly with a woman called Anna Halprin, who's quite well known in the contemporary dance world.
Yes.
Or was, in early days.
Mm. Mm. So...
And then, it continued and developed, and we've worked with a lot of different guest artists and directors and teachers. Mm. And a lot of different people have gone through the company, and some people have gone on, you know, to other things. One in the UK and one in Berlin, doing quite well. And people have moved on to other companies like Raucus and Back to Back. So it's been kind of a seeding company.
Yes.
And I also like to think that all the artists who've, you know, the guest artists who've come through who aren't necessarily disabled, have learnt something from their experience of working with us.
Of course.
About diversity and access.
Well, do you want to speak about what Weave is? Because we haven't actually even introduced what Weave is yet.
That's right, yeah. So Weave is a disability dance / theatre company of, all at the moment, all disabled people with different types of conditions. So we've had a wide range of people in the company over time, from neurodivergence to physical, intellectual disabilities. And so that's been a big learning curve for me too, because just because I had a physical disability didn't mean I knew everything about disability, but I had always been interested in human rights and in human rights causes, and so that sort of carried over for me and helped me. So I've always had, you know, the feeling people should be able to do what they want to do and have barriers removed, and so I've tried to do that for the people in the company.
That kind of answers my next question, which is, what is your motivation? At first it was selfish, you know, when I first got out of hospital. It was, I just wanted to keep moving and dancing. And I was lucky in that people who I knew beforehand, and I had, because of the graduate diploma, I had learned about all these other forms of dance, and including dance that was kind of built around improvisation. And so I went back into some of those people's classes. They took me back in because they knew me. And then it developed from there to contact improvisation, which you do with a partner or several partners, and it's all putting weight on your partners and getting momentum out of sharing weight and things like that. So it was invented in New York about 40 years ago. And so I got involved. Martin Hughes had been in America very involved in contact improvisation, and I'd also met up with some disabled dancers who worked from America who worked in contact improvisation. So so then that's how State of Flux started, and then we went for 10 years in State of Flux. And that was, you know, in those days I was a bit more agile, and I was in a manual chair all the time. So there was a lot of tipping me out of the chair and lifting, and it sort of gave me a whole lot of dimensions. So that was my selfish motivation. And then that evolved into becoming interested in working in disability, and I guess to a certain extent you're forced into that because there's a lot of segregation in the arts with disability. You know, you're in a disability company. It's kind of changing a bit, maybe more on screen than anywhere. But yeah, there's a lot of segregation and having disability groups separate from mainstream theatre or dance or whatever. And also it was a bit of a rebellious spirit to say, well, stuff you, I'm going to keep dancing. Exactly, yeah. So that was advocacy in action then, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. And so I was looking, and because I'd learnt all those sort of flexible forms of dance in the graduate diploma when I was in America, you could apply them to people with different physical capacities and mental capacities. Yeah.
So did you gain much inspiration from your time in America? Because it's a little bit more integrated over there, is it not? Or not?
I think people are more assertive about what they're going to do, what they're going to be allowed to do, sort of thing.
Their rights.
And also a bit entrepreneurial in stepping up and doing it themselves.
And it was a thing, you know, I was lucky in a way that my injury happened then, because it was just starting up, you know. Canduco was becoming quite famous, the British company, it's still going. And so the interest in disability in dance was just starting up.
Yeah.
But we have a bit of a mix of dance and theatre, because we've got some people in the company who are more interested really in theatre and more of a background in that.
And how have you found being a woman and leading a company? Has that influenced your movement at all, or your success?
There's some benefits to it, you know, in that sometimes company funding bodies are looking to fund minorities.
Tick boxes, yeah.
Oh, look, you know, I'm not the most charismatic, assertive person in the world, and so I have my own style, which is probably more to do with trying to find out how people function best and trying to work in that way. Yeah, look, I feel that probably along the way, maybe being a woman, I don't know, and having a disability in particular has perhaps moulded some attitudes towards me and towards my capabilities. I mean, just in a superficial way, if I'm in a rehearsal room and someone who doesn't know us comes in to do something, like take photos or something, they will go to some standing up person in the room, immediately thinking that I wouldn't be in a leadership role. And so I guess also being a leader, a model as a leader, is important to, you know, show people that someone with disability can lead, and also to model that for other disabled people.
Yeah, lambast and lead attitudinal change.
Yeah, yeah.
How has your advocacy evolved over the years? Because coming from where you did at the age you were, and having seen all the changes in society and changes in attitudes approaching people with disabilities, how has that affected your advocacy?
I think, yeah, I've learned heaps. You know, I just, as I said before, just because I had a disability that I acquired didn't mean I knew anything about other disabilities. So I've, both through my work with Weave and through my advocacy work that I've done in a few different organisations, I've learnt a lot about other types of disability. I think I've learnt more in my arts work than other things, but yeah, I've you know, learnt. I was very nervous at first about how to deal with people, say, who had an intellectual disability, a learning disability, that I was going to do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing. But I gradually learned that everyone's an individual, and you just really have to listen and watch what they respond best to.
Yeah. So you've been running Weave for a long time. It's been 20 years, you said?
26 years.
26 years. What legacy do you want to leave?
Well, I hope to have had a positive effect on people's perceptions of performance by disabled performers. I hope to have opened up opportunities for disabled performers, because often they're excluded from, say, tertiary education, especially if they've got some sort of physical disability or probably learning disability. And I'd like to think we've done some training work by having all different artists in to work with the performers. And so I'd like to think I opened up opportunities and confidence and a different way of looking at disabled people. I have had people from the audience come to me and say, "Oh, that was mind-blowing for me. I've never looked at disabled people in that way." Or someone even said, "You've changed my life," just because of seeing disabled people in a different light.
Wow, that's highly effective work there.
Yeah, so you don't know what effect you have. You know, there's a whole audience sitting there and they go away with whatever story they have in their head.
Yeah.
And and again, a lot of people have been through the company, so I know we've had an influence of starting people off and then sending them off with whatever their ambitions are.
Well done, Janice. You've done a fantastic job. You really have.
There's a lot of everyday hack work involved. admin. You've changed
a lot of lives, and you've changed a lot of attitudes too. So well done.
Thank you.
Well done, Janice, and thank you for coming and joining us.
That's okay. It's a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.